All right, guys. So a lot of you wanted my long response, but first let me give my short response. My short response is pretty much it works for me. Biden works for me. Um, so like there's certain things in life that you that would help you out, whether it's your family or yourself, and you just have to look at those things. And if they help you out, then it's good for you. So whether you're Trump, Biden, or someone else, as long as to your benefit and you've done at least some research, then I can't hate on it because you're just trying to benefit yourself. That's the short answer. The long answer, we're actually going to go over a couple of these issues, and this is from the Washington Post, which we'll try and cover pretty quickly. That way, you guys can get on with your Sunday. Blah, 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 blah. Tongue twisters. All right, so let's start off with the coronavirus response. So Trump doesn't support a nationwide fight for the pandemic as far as wearing masks, and then Biden does. So Trump believes that he should leave it to the states to provide like regulatory. I think he just doesn't want to seem like the bad guy, which is fine. I've dealt with like store managers that don't want to seem like the bad guy, so they leave it up to their managers below them to handle that responsibility. So whether it's good or bad, there people are going to get mad at the representatives, for their government representatives, the governor, pretty much, um, rather than the administration, whether good or bad, which I think is fine. I think it's fine. It makes sense. Each state is a little bit different, so it makes sense in that aspect. So I'm with Trump on that one. And Biden thinks that he should like oversee it all, which it's kind of rough. I know a lot of people would do pushback because it feels like your rights are being I guess infringed upon, you could say. So I can see why that wouldn't be such a great idea. But in overall, I think like wearing a mask is more important than not wearing it. It's like it's more important to have a mask and not need it than need it and not have it. Like what happened to Trump. He hasn't been wearing a mask for quite a while now, and he recently just got sick at one of the most crucial times of his political career, which is not good. And then right now he's trailing in the polls from what I last saw the last couple of hours. I don't know what's gonna happen, but that's just what the polls say. So let's keep going. They both want to expand testing, each in their own way. We'll bypass that. Supports fast tracking development of safe and effective vaccine. Now I'm very big on this. The safe part. In my perspective, I think there needs to be a delay to see how people's reactions are gonna play out over time, and that you can't replace time except with simulations. But even in a simulation, you can't account for everything that goes on in the human body. Maybe if we have AI with people's different genetics, man, this is a great idea. I should actually someone should make a company about this. You should take people's different genetics and then have the AI run it as if it was a human body, and then you can test viruses and then just kind of like bypass that time frame needed in a normal human when the AI could kind of read it, and that might help over time. I mean, initially it wouldn't probably be the best, but with AI, the more you do it, the better it gets, which is pretty crazy. I'm not going to get into technology and all that stuff, so I'm just going to bypass that. But the key thing for me is safe. I'm not big on like rushing anything and then it's going to come out worse. I've had people that have taken the bird flu. A friend of mine actually took his kids to get the bird flu shot, and they ended up turning like purple. They had a reaction, and luckily they were okay. But after that, he said he's never gonna take them to get another shot. Um, so I don't hate vaccines, but if there's an alternative, I generally try and approach that. So either way, as long as it's safe, that's my key thing. And I wouldn't be the first one to try it. I would probably wait a while. So I'd rather stay a little bit more safer, not go out as much into like public places where there's so many people around, not wear a mask. I'd rather be safer rather than take risk when not necessary. So supports reopening the schools. Trump has called on schools to open fully, although he said in July that cities or states are currently hotspots. He has said federal funding should be withheld from districts that won't reopen. Biden emphasizes that districts should make decisions about reopening safely based on local conditions. He called on Congress to provide billions of dollars in emergency funding for school districts to make the changes necessary and buy protective equipment. Now, school for me is a big issue. First of all, I think kids do not need to go to school, other than for the social aspect, in my perspective. I am very progressive, so just keep that in mind also. I think you can do a lot of schooling at home learning. My major issue with schools is that everything is standardized, and public schooling anyway, everything is standardized. When you do good work, you pretty much have to meet a certain standard. When you do bad work, you have to write up standards. Like the testing, it's standardized. Whether teachers are do good, or they get a raise or anything, I believe that's based on standardized testing as well, and that's a big issue with me, because not every child is going to be um, either fluent in math or in English or in history, and everyone's gonna have their different tastes. Just like we like different ice creams, they have their different things that appeal to them. And I believe that computers and technology can help create a better scalable environment where they can prosper. Um, they can prosper in a way that um, influences the things that they enjoy and they like to continue their growth. Like if you like games, gaming is a huge, huge sector that continues to grow year over year, um, as well as like different fields. But just technology overall can help kids keep growing and keep learning. So that going back to school is not, I don't feel it's as necessary. And it's kind of been shown that it's more of a daycare. Like those 8 hours is the 8 hours that you generally go to work and you can pick up your kids, and so I'm more of a like, let's go through a progression type of mentality. If you know this, let's go to the next thing. If you know this, go to the next thing. If you know this, go to the next thing. And the reason I say that is because schools, if your kid is up here and someone is down here, the work they generally provide is they kind of like bring your kid down, and then to try and like keep a pace for everyone, which is to me is not cool. If your kid is really great at computers or technology, or they're great at science, or they're great at math, like if they want to focus on that, I think it would be a great idea for to have them to keep going in that field. I mean, if let's say there's a power outage, um, and then maybe someone that has a flashlight can help out. But what other tools are necessary? It's not just a flashlight. Like, well, how can we get the generator working back up? Like someone that might know like electricity, or maybe we need someone to climb up high, so we need someone that's physically fit. Like humanity is not based on only one thing; it's based on several things. I'm kind of getting sidetracked, but school's a big thing with me. So I hope that they do some changes. And damn, it's already 8 minutes. I am not gonna fit this in 10 minutes. All right, so we'll cut it up into pieces. But schools, I don't think it's necessary to reopen. I think they can get the same learning from what I've seen at home. The problem is if the kids have the tools and the technology to do it, and three, if the school is ready to implement that. I'm sure they're very disorganized. Well, at least they were when the pandemic first happened, but I have seen teachers kind of like progress beyond that. And there's some videos that I was pretty impressed with. Um, but getting kids to participate from home seemed like the biggest challenge. But as far as for learning, kids can learn so much at such a young age if you provide it in a way where they can intake it. Like you feed a kid broccoli and generally they're like, oh, I don't want that. But maybe if you mix it in with like make it into an omelet, cut it up, and do it a certain way that they'll take it like, this is good. Same thing with knowledge and same thing with education. It's an extra step. Yep, completely. It's an extra step. If the education needs to provide a school education, well, as long as we don't say anything, then no, they don't need to provide that as far as public education. But I think with technology, we'll be able to scale that over time. with AI and other stuff, but that's other stuff. Don't worry about that right now. So they want to withdraw from the health organization. I think as long as we do what we need to do, whether we're in an organization or not, it's irrelevant. If we can just get the world data to see how we're doing compared to everyone else, even though we shouldn't judge ourselves based on other people and always try to do our best, I think that'll be okay. Um, so economy and trade. Let's. This is interesting. I love finance. So the economy and trade supports raising the federal minimum wage to $15 per hour. Um, no, I don't think that's fair, personally. The reason I say that is because certain states don't produce as much, which is kind of where the electoral college kind of comes into question as well. Like, what do we base how much each state should make, or how many electoral votes count for each state? You know, if is it by population? Is it um, by how much GDP they produce? Is it what is it based on? Because to me right now that doesn't make sense. Uh, and by state, I guess it would be by cost of living. So personally don't think it's appropriate to just set a fixed hourly rate for people. Um, it just doesn't make sense in the fact that they can. How do I say this? If you're in California and you're making the same amount of money as someone in like Illinois, does that sound pretty fair to you? Like, as far as like to start, like I would move to Illinois for a couple of years where cost of living is much less, save up that capital, and then maybe move back to Kansas. Maybe, I don't even know if I would be able to. I don't know how expensive California is going to get by that time. Um, so I'm not in accordance with Biden on that, and all this stuff that they say they want to do. Like, it doesn't really matter what they say when it matters what they actually do. All this shows is potential intent. That's not even a for sure thing. Like, we've had politicians promise us various things, and a lot of times they don't deliver. So this, I personally hope it doesn't get delivered, but it is what it is. And if everyone wants to get paid more, that money's got to come from somewhere. And whether it's corporations, whether it's uh, taxes, where they implement new regulations and new oversight, whatever it is going to come from somewhere. So we'll see what happens there. But I wouldn't mind if the rate is in accordance to the state rather than a federal wage. Let's go. So you can see down here the 12-month change in the average U.S. wages from 2007 to 2020. Obama's actually went down, though we did have the crash, to be fair. And then it's been going up since 2017 to 3.4%. And this is average over the course of the U.S. Though also, to be fair, inflation is about 2.5% year over year. So, it's not that much. If you're not getting at least about 2.5% year over year on a wage growth, your money is devaluing over time. So it's not good. So when you put your money in a savings account, just really quick, it doesn't make sense because you're actually losing money every year. But if you have questions on that, you can go ahead and ask me later. Supports United States and Mexico Canada trade deals. Now I really love Mexico. Their shit is really screwed up from what I've seen. The government, there's a lot of politicians that have been bribed and a lot of corruption. But lately, this president has been cleaning up and seems to be imposing tax evasion to all these U.S. companies in Mexico. So we'll see what happens there. As far as for these guys, they both support it. So I'm just gonna skip this. Uh, Supports Made in America policies. Let me read this real quick. So this one I'm a little iffy on. Um, Trump signed an executive order requiring certain essential drugs and medical equipment purchased by the federal government be manufactured domestically. So he wants to make sure that those drugs are just available to us. Now, Biden proposed would penalize American companies for moving manufacturing and service jobs overseas and then selling their products in the United States. He called for the federal government to spend 400 billion dollars over 4 years on materials and services made in the U.S., as well as 300 billion dollars in U.S.-based research and development involving electric cars, artificial intelligence, and similar technology. I think I like Biden's policy on this one more, actually, because he would penalize American companies for moving manufacturing jobs overseas. Now, a fair argument would be like, well, why don't those companies just become, they leave U.S. and yeah, that's fine. Like honestly, a lot of these drugs and prescription stuff that we pay for are overpriced compared to the rest of the world. Overpriced. It is crazy, and a lot of Democrats have been fighting for this, and I truly agree that it should be made more affordable to people. Um, so I'm with Biden on this one. Supports allowing the Federal Reserve to operate independent of political pressure. Trump has pressed the Fed to lower interest rates and nominated allies with controversial stances on the Fed's independence and monetary policy. Now, Biden says no president or even a candidate for president should be tweeting or commenting on an institution that requires independence to fulfill its duties, Biden told the Post during a Democratic primary. So this is a little funny. A few months ago, Elon Musk actually got dinged by the SEC and had to pay, I believe, a couple million um, for tweeting something that affected the company's stock price. But on the other hand, Trump can tweet things that affect the stock market um, and all of U.S. and it's okay. Like there's no issue with that. It's just weird. There was a post that I was reading. I think it was today that said killing someone is bad unless you call it war. And it's you could call it something else and it's okay. It's legal. That I think that's what it was. Killing is illegal unless you call it war. And then there was another one. Um, I think it was on Elon Musk's tweeting something. If you're Elon Musk, is illegal if when you own the company, but when you're the president of the USA, it's okay, and that's true. It shouldn't be okay. So I'm with Biden on this one. Um, let's see. Supports an eviction. Yeah, okay. So they're both pretty much in accordance with this. Um, so that's fine. As far as immediate relief, we'll see what that entails. Um, but I think there is going to be a housing issue, a renters issue more than anything for those people that there's a backlog on having missed payments. Whether it's going to be filing for bankruptcy, whether they're going to have additional assistance from the government, there's going to be something that comes into play. Supports funding up to 12 weeks of paid family leave for American workers. And also, this is my first time reading all these, at least side by side. So it's interesting. Supports funding up to 12 weeks of paid family leave for American workers. Trump signed a defense bill in 2019 that included a measure pushed by House Democrats and his daughter Ivanka Trump that guarantees 12 weeks of paid parental leave for federal workers. Trump committed to provide paid parental leave for working parents in the 2020 budget, backed a bill that would allow new parents to take advance payments on future child tax credits, but he has not pushed the issue. Biden pledges to support the universal paid sick days and 12 weeks of paid family and medical leave. Here's something else that they say, like Trump has said stuff, but he hasn't enforced it or he hasn't pushed it. Um, Biden seems to support something, but there hasn't been anything really to show it. So a lot of this stuff comes to like what they say. Um, for me, what it was is more like not what they say, but the potential of it actually happening. Um, like to me, one of the biggest things, I'm not sure if it's mentioned on here, is the education or the loans, student loans and stuff like that. One, I know a lot of the students are struggling. I myself have student loans. Luckily, I'm not struggling. But anything that I can get from the government, yeah, I'll take it. Then I can use that money to invest in something else. Which Trump is more on the investment side, while Biden is more on the helping the Democrats and lower class families and stuff like that. But we'll get more into that, I guess, as we go down. Holy shit, this is a long ass video. So I don't know how many of you guys are still watching, but we're really like at 20 minutes. Supports Trans-Pacific Partnership deal. Trump fulfills campaign promises to withdraw from deal at the beginning of the first term. Biden helped craft and promote the original deal to counter China's rising economic might, but now says parts of it would need to be renegotiated for him to support it. Uh, it's been a while since I looked at the Trans-Pacific Partnership deal. I have to go back and check it out. Um, it looks like there would be changes regardless, though, so I'm not gonna um, be too big on this. I have to go back. I forgot what it was completely about. Actually, let's Google it real quick. You guys are all here. Trans-Pacific Partnership. Let's see what that says. Free trade agreement to U.S. states and 11 other countries. What countries? Australia, Canada, Chile, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico. Uh, so this is how I get my information. If I don't know something, I look it up. That's the best thing you can do. If you don't know a terminology, you look it up. Also, financial terminologies, go to Investopedia. Really, really great website for anything to do with like finance and cost dollar averaging and trading and like just a bunch of terms that has to do with like money, which is really cool. And formulas. They have really good formulas. Uh, let's see. Here we go. Removes 99% of tariffs on goods and services, just like the original TPP, which is Trans-Pacific Partnership. It also sets reciprocal trade quotas. These measures make it more difficult for U.S. businesses, especially farmers, to export. Okay, U.S. exporters will be more expensive. Okay, let's look at the pros and then the cons. So the pros, they've created more jobs and prosperity for 12 countries involved. They would have increased exports by 305 billion per year by 2025. U.S. exports would increase by 123.5 billion. It would benefit the machinery, auto, plastic, and agricultural industries. It would have increased exports by removing 18,000 tariffs placed on U.S. exports to other countries. Okay, so we would have added 223 billion a year to income of workers in all the countries. Okay, hmm. So. Cons: most of the gains in income would have gone to workers making more than 87,000. Okay, see, so here's the downside. The free trade agreement contributes to income inequality in high wage countries. They promote cheaper growth, cheaper goods for low wage countries. Cheaper goods for low wage countries. They would have particularly true for the TPP because of protected patents and copyrights. Okay, so let's look at the basics. Pros: boosted U.S. exports and growth, removed tariffs, added billions in U.S. economy workers, bigger than NAFTA, offset China's economic power, protected patents. High income workers benefited the most, reduced availability of generics, reduced incentives to protect environment, superseded financial regulations. How do I feel about this one? I kind of don't. From this information, quick information, anything you want to like get in depth on, I suggest you look into it yourself. None of these bills and deals have passed, so these are just like in the talks of what they want to do. Since it affects more of the higher income workers, I would not. I'm not too keen on it, but if it passes, it passes. It does help out the U.S. economy somewhat, somewhat. But as far as for the lower class, then no, it wouldn't. But if you're like high mid class or so, I think you might be good on this one. So it just depends where you are, where you stand. Let's go back to these. Supports tariffs on goods from China. Trump waged a war against China for nearly 2 years, causing deep damage in parts of the U.S. economy. The deal he signed scores some wins, though skepticism remains about whether massive tariffs were needed to get there. Biden, who was harshly critical of Trump's approach to China, has promised to reevaluate tariffs on Chinese products upon taking office. Okay. I think they may need to be reevaluated. My understanding is that China could actually pay Vietnam or another like country to send us like goods from them, and they kind of just bypass that. Um, I guess pretty much it's kind of like a sanction. It's a tariff, but that's I guess one way to sanction someone. Um, so they just raise the price and they ship it to Vietnam. Vietnam puts their label and then they can like ship it out. And I mean it's just business, honestly. And we can't even keep track of what like fake companies from China we've had over here in the past. So now that they're not even over here, it's just companies that we're getting like overseas. Like who's gonna verify if they're actually coming from China or not? That's another question. So I think we would just have to adapt. If you're a business owner and you buy a lot of stuff from China to sell, um, I would say just you would have to reevaluate your costs um, and taxes and all that stuff. So we'll see, we'll see. But which one I support, I could say it's either way. Like, is it going to be enforced? If are these tariffs, like, how do you know that it's not going to affect the people who buy on the daily? Like inflation and all this other stuff's going to come into play, but this is something else to keep in mind. They can raise the cost of goods. Taxes and entitlements. Oh, I love taxes. Well, I love not paying them, I should say. Taxes and entitlements supports extending 600 per month federal unemployment insurance supplement. Okay, I don't know if you guys are gonna like this or not like this, but I am so on the 600 per month. Like I said, my situation and maybe like your situation might be different. Um, but there's as a general review. Let's talk about as a general review. Generally, you can have um, short-term pain for long-term growth, or you can have kind of like a relief package, and then long-term you kind of end up hurting yourself. But that's something we still have to see. So let's say you get another stimulus. That money has to come from somewhere, whether the Fed has to print it out, whether it's going to come out in taxes or something. Like all these people that are leaving New York, Los Angeles, like those taxes are going to come from somewhere because COVID just screwed New York for sure. Um, I forgot how much they're in debt, but they have to raise taxes or find some way to make that up. So a lot of those millionaires and billionaires are actually leaving, and someone's gonna have to pick that up. So if you can't afford to leave, you can't afford to like move to a new place and grab all your stuff or whatever you need to do. You're stuck there, and you can get stuck paying for those higher taxes, and it sucks. It sucks, but that's that's business, unfortunately. And we're a capitalistic economy. You know, we function. We're a capitalistic society for the most part, from my view. Um, and it sucks, but if you know the rules and you know how things can play out, you can make adjustments. That's why it's very important to like try and stay ahead of the game. Try and stay ahead of what may happen. You know, it may not happen, but there's a possibility that it may happen. So when you're looking at these two presidential candidates, you can go for whichever side you want, but just keep in mind the other. So I always say I'm a big fan of boxing. I love boxing. So the punches that hurt the most are the ones that you don't see coming. The punches you that hurt the most are the ones you don't see coming. So it's always good to keep your eyes open, your ears open, and listen to both aspects. Um, So if I support it, I'm so about it. I think there's a better system that should be put into place. I think we should put maybe like this is just I'm just throwing a number out there. 400 out there as far as for the people, and then 200 per person should go to developing a system where money can be distributed more fairly. And what I mean by that is we have a current structure where um, they were either let's give everybody $600, or let's give everyone $1,200, regardless of where you lived, with like cost of living or what you made. You just get that. Well, not fully regardless of what you make, but you know the bracket. But cost of living is a big thing. So if we could create a system where all that is tracked, I recommend the blockchain, which is being worked on right now by developers all over the world. They can put us on something secure like that. It can still be privatized and encrypted or whatever we need it to do. But like say there's another issue like this in the future, they need to do another stimulus type of thing to make it fair. It'll grab your information, um, whether it's like where you live, expenses and stuff like that, and it can just send you the money that is needed to cover your cost of living pretty much, so you can sustain your family, yourself, until we get through whatever hardship we're going through at the time. So I'm very big on progression, systems, technology. Um, there's a lot of stuff that's outdated right now, and we need to make huge changes. Either president to me is I don't think is going to make that change, but I guess Biden seems to be a little bit more into like autonomous vehicles and electric, so maybe he'll take that route. I don't think so because he just the age is seems that age group generally does not think this progressive, but I think we would benefit as a society if we start implementing a different type of foundation to create a better system in place. Supports cutting Social Security. He's unclear. When you're unclear, you generally don't want to be hated, so you give a political answer. Um, Social Security. That's gonna come from somewhere, and I think people should get paid for that. So I'm with Biden on this. Supports 2017 GOP tax cut. Let's read this one. Trump signed a significant overhaul of the U.S. tax code in 2017, which he touted as a bill for the middle class and bill for jobs. Corporations would receive a major tax cut, while most Americans saw temporary savings of various sizes. Biden has said that he would reverse many of Trump's tax cuts for the wealthy and corporations to fund, in part, costly climate, education, and healthcare plans. He said he would not increase taxes for anyone earning less than 400,000. So during was it the vice president debate, they were talking about that Biden was going to raise taxes, and Kamala Harris said like, no, he's only going to raise taxes if you make 400,000 or more. And I like I said, I am okay with that because that doesn't affect me or my family. Um, where I could see it affecting that is if like corporations want to go overseas and trying to avoid that, but the president could also make it um, not illegal, but I guess you could say illegal, that you have to, if you're an American company, you need to pay American taxes. Um, maybe, I don't know how they would work it out with other countries, but I believe that's how it should be. You can't have like our name or our the brand, but we're gonna outsource the jobs to other places. Or maybe, I mean, I guess you could, because technology right now is doing that stuff, but that's a very tricky one. I say, in my personal opinion, no. For the 400,000, if you're making 400,000 or more, I think you should get cut at least right now, with like everyone hurting, and then those bailouts that we did back in 2008, 2009, during the housing crash, and those companies got bailed out. A lot of those companies did stock buybacks. For those of you who aren't familiar with stock buybacks, um, it's money that shareholders or that the company makes that's put back into buying their own stock. So their stock goes up and it looks good on paper, but what stuff happens, like kind of like what the corona did, and it just screwed everyone up, especially if you're in the airline, because you couldn't sustain, you didn't have like any extra capital on the side to sustain your business, or um, you don't have like a rainy day type of savings. You just spent it all on making your company look good. Which, if we didn't have the corona, would have looked good and it would have like kept going. But what I think the coronavirus did is expose a lot of weaknesses and flaws we have in our system and economy. So for this one, I'm no. Currently, at least in the short to midterm, we still have to see how things play out. But I'm more with Biden on this one. Supports increasing capital gains. Trump said he's seriously considering cutting capital gains. Biden plan would effectively double the rate by subjecting capital gains to his plan's top marginal rate. 39.6% of people with incomes of 1 million or more. Now, like I said, I don't know many people who make more than a million. So in my eyes, I would support Biden. I do know a couple millionaires and billionaires, and they are pretty chill, very, very nice, very humble. I'm sure everyone's not like that. Just like we have people in different economic classes that can be like dicks. It's the same thing with like millionaires and billionaires. So I I choose Biden on this one just because I think we need it personally. And like I said, everyone's situation is different. For me, short term or midterm, that would be fine. Eventually, who knows? But I'm always I always try and be non-government reliant. So whichever side I fall on, or whichever side I guess the country falls on, like you'll be okay. So always try and do your due diligence and your research, because there's always benefits, especially in times of crisis. Like right now in the stock market, it's been going up and down, and it's crazy, right? But there's always opportunity in those ups and downs, and the more you know, you can kind of get a better understanding of what to do, so you're not frozen. Um, but like I said, right now I'm with Biden on this one. Supports increasing corporate tax rate. Trump's tax cut lowered the corporate rate from 35% to 21%. Biden would raise the corporate tax rate from 21% to 28%. See, here's another tricky one. So you have corporations that, yes, one, they create jobs, yes. But most of those jobs are shitty jobs. Maybe I shouldn't say shitty, or most of them, but many of those jobs are jobs that are created for the sole purpose of providing money to their investors. That is their purpose. Now, I believe it was Elon Musk that said, if you base the value of your company on how much money you make, then it's not really a great company. Like what it, I think it's more important to base a company based on its value it produces to people. I understand like the money is important because you need to keep the company functioning. But overall, companies, whether it's a service, whether it's a product, it provides um, something of value to the person. But when these companies hold money as its value rather than what people can take of value from the company, ordinary people, not its stockholders, um, I think there's a disconnect there, and we become even more greedy and capitalistic than we already are. Um, the issue with this tax rate is, like, one, yes, we can see jobs go away, if Biden does raise the corporate tax rate, and Trump says like, oh, we need these companies to stay here, um, but at the same time, like, a company is only here to function for its shareholders, or one of the main reasons, or if not the main reason, to function for its shareholders. At least these corporate companies that I'm familiar with, if they have shareholders, they have to report to them. If a shareholder puts money in a company as an investment, As an investment, they want a return. If they don't get a return, they don't have profits. They go talk to the CEOs. They go talk to the board of directors. And if they want to, they can withdraw their money and put it in another company. They don't want that. Corporations are not generally not built for stuff like that. So their responsibility is to make more money. If they can cut jobs making more money, they'll do it. They'll do it. So whether they outsource overseas or whether they keep jobs here but eventually get replaced with AI or robots or machine learning, whatever it is, then I don't know if you guys understand a lot of the stuff I'm saying. I'm a very like technical person, but I also enjoy finance, so I bring in tech sometimes to kind of show a trend where stuff is going. Like with Amazon has all these robots, right? Yeah, you give Amazon a tax break, but they can just hire more robots. Why? Because they just want to make money. Like, yeah, they'll give you what you want, but is that their value or is their value to make money? Because you have their employees, one of the most richest, and Walmart was like this a few years ago as well. One of the most richest companies in the world are are has employees that are receiving food stamps from the government. Now that government, those government food stamps come from our money because we fund the government with our taxes. So we're paying for some of the richest companies in the world for these loopholes. And what am I going to say? Like, oh yeah, they shouldn't do that. Well, yeah, they shouldn't do that, but according to the law, it's legal. Just like with Trump's taxes, that's a big thing with Trump's taxes. Like, oh, Trump is not paying any taxes, and honestly, I can't ding him for that. Like, I would do the same thing. I do tax breaks. I get tax breaks because I have like businesses on the side and stuff like that. So I understand, and he does it very smartly because the money goes to his kids. I don't know if I don't know how well he is at managing his businesses because there's a lot of bankruptcies. But as far as moving his money like towards the family, then yeah, I think he does a okay job, or someone. I don't know if it's him doing these things honestly, or someone just advises him. But the money gets passed down to his kids. There's actually a tax, an inheritance tax. I believe in California, if you anything over 11 million gets taxed. So the more you can fund to your family in the form of a business, you actually get things with less or none at all by the time you pass away, or you give your estate, like everything that you have left when you pass away, to your family, your kids, or whoever. Um, and that's the way to do it. Like a lot of us, we don't understand that, one because we're not at those tax brackets, and two because we're not taught this. Um, so educate yourself on all the finance, how the government works, how the system works, how the Fed works, monetary policy, and all this stuff. So I got sidetracked, but supports increasing corporate tax rates. I think we'll be fine either way. I'm gonna go with Biden. Um, why am I gonna go with Biden again? You guys made me forget talking about all this other stuff. um, so I'm gonna go with Biden because I think they should corporations should actually pay more in taxes. I think a lot of these technology companies, especially, will be making so much money and will be much more efficient in the future. But I can also see it from Trump's perspective, and I think what we need to do as a society as a whole, um, is just find a way to transition because AI is not going away, and it's only getting better and better and better and better. And Uber may be going away or may not be going away, but drivers will more than likely be going away in a few years, maybe like 5 to 10. I'm saying it's just a number. Um, and I say this because they want to have autonomous vehicles out on the road. If you have an autonomous vehicle, what you can do is you can have someone order a vehicle like Tesla, let's say. It picks you up, drives you where you need to go, and drops you off. If you're at work, you're at home, like your car is making money for you, it's an investment, you know. And a lot of things, oh, that's crazy. Yeah, one time they thought that we couldn't fly, and now we have airplanes grounded. Now we can't fly because of all this Rona. So it's a lot of stuff that's happening in the future. If you guys look into all this technology that's being produced, you'd be pretty surprised. Supports reparations to descendants of enslaved people. Trump calls the debate interesting, but said he doesn't see it happening. While my administration takes major actions to address systematic racism, I would also study. So non-conclusive. Um, Trump says no. Biden says he would study it. I would study it. However, it's very unlikely. It's very unlikely because I don't know how they would manage it, and it's not my job to get into that right now. So I'm not gonna talk about it. They just call this one inconclusive. Supports opportunity zones, which create tax incentives to encourage investments in struggling communities. The administration's signature policy for low-income and minority communities, opportunity zones, are meant to encourage investment in struggling areas. The zones included in 2017 tax bill cut have been reviewed skeptically by some economists. Biden says we cannot close the racial wealth gap if we follow billionaires to exploit opportunity zones, tax breaks to pad their wealth. Biden's plans for racial equality in the U.S. economy said. Um, there's a lot of data on this. If you guys are not familiar with opportunity zone tax breaks, take a look into it. Mm. Trump says he's willing to create incentives, tax incentives. The problem with this, it seems like it may be gentrification. So, but then again, like no one really forces you to sell your house. But if property values go up and taxes go up, and you can't afford your home, it's I guess like maybe each community is different, each person is different. Um, I'm not sure how big this is gonna play how big of a part this is gonna play in the election. But from where I live, I'm not in a rich area, but I'm not in a poor area also, or an economically struggling area. So I'm just gonna veto this. If I had to choose one, I would look into reforming. There's a lot of stuff in general that we can look at to make things better, to incentivize certain growth or better growth. And I don't mean like financial or class or status. I just mean as a community, as a social aspect, as passing down information. So that's something to look into. Healthcare supports Affordable Care Act. This one I am no. I don't think you should have to pay for Obamacare that happened before. I think that should be up to the individual person. However, I do know that there's issues with some people going to the hospital, I believe, and not having insurance. So what they should do, they need to just create a better system overall. All these systems are outdated. If everything was on a blockchain or somewhere where it was privatized by the person or encrypted, where the government didn't have access to unless a person, the individual gave them access to, um, but all their information were to be kept there, I think this would be so much better because one, like all your information will be there. Like whether you have a insurance or not, it will be okay. It'll just be deducted from your taxes or whatever it is. Maybe it'll be less, maybe it'll be more. It just depends, you know. The algorithm will be better, and obviously it'll be have to be something that we'll have to vote on. But I think technology just makes everything more scalable. I'm a very progressive person. I think a lot of stuff that we have is outdated. It needs changing. So if I support it, no, I don't support it. But I think there might be a better way to do it. However, we need newer people than the ones we're currently probably going to vote for. Supports acquiring health insurance to cover pre-existing conditions. Trump has said repeatedly that he will always protect Americans with pre-existing medical conditions, yet the protection are part of the ACA, which the administration wants the Supreme Court to strike down. The president threw his support behind House and Senate bills that would have weakened pre-existing conditions protections by allowing states to seek waivers. If the bills had been signed into law, costs for people with existing health conditions almost certainly would have increased. Yeah, from what I understand, yeah, they would have gone up. Biden regularly attacks Trump for the undermining of the ACA, Barack Obama's signature policy achievement during Biden's time as vice. Like all these programs, uh, there's so much stuff we can do with technology. I know this is not about technology; it's about the debate. But a lot of these systems are broken and can use so much change. I am not. I was not born in America. I'm Mexican, but I was raised American, so I'm Mexican American. But I eat chile and I swear like a Mexican. So like half and half. I can't. I don't think I can run for president, but I have so many ideas. Let's just continue on. This is something else that could be solved. Maybe not solved completely, but it could be better mitigated through a form of like blockchain where where finances can be like put into play or everything that it'll become more efficient. Let's just say that some of the things that we can do with technology, it'll make things more efficient, which in turn would save us more money, and we would have more um, federal money to be implemented into more programs, whether it's social, whether it's for health, whether whatever it is. My big thing is efficiency. I'm huge on efficiency, and yes, it requires an initial investment. It requires an initial investment, definitely. But with that investment, it's gonna last you years on years on years and years. Like I said, like yeah, cool. Give people 400 and the 200 extra you invest on whatever that amount was going to be. You invested on new things that would have helped in case this does happen again because it happens pretty frequently. From I don't know if you guys pay attention from all these crashes, whether it's regulators that are letting it happen, whether it's government, whether it's corporation, whether it's banks. There's all these forms of like crashes, and if you go back far enough, you see there's trends. So we need a better system, in my opinion. If you're older or you're in the Senate, you probably would disagree with me, but it's fine. Supports a public health insurance option for government finance care. Finance care. Biden says he would build on the ACA to give more people the choice of a public insurance plan rather than create a Medicare for all single payer system. Yeah, I'm more of a competition type of person. So if there's more competition out there, then your rates are probably generally going to be lower. Once someone controls everything, who's to stop them from getting greedy? The government? Ha! No, no. I'm more of a open market type of person. Supports lowering Medicare eligibility age. Biden announced in the spring to make Americans eligible for Medicare at age 60 instead of current 65. I would have to look. There's stuff I have to look at for this. I love helping people. I love helping people. And when there's a way that you can, when there are times you can't do it, there needs to be certain changes, not in like the indirect ways to help them, or not in the ways that, not there needs to be changes in the direct ways we help them, not in the indirect ones. Sorry, I had that backwards. There needs to be ways where we can help people, even if it incorporates indirect means or ways. And what I mean by that is like, okay, we have kids in like Africa who are starving or refugees, or we have people that need help all over. You know, even here in the U.S. Um, but we also have the issue of some of these like CEOs and nonprofit organizations kind of having a high um, um, wage. They have annual wages that are like in the millions, and it kind of calls into question sometimes, like if they're profiting or like how much money is actually going to these people in help that need help. So it's very not nerve wracking, but it sometimes brings into like doubt. I have doubt sometimes, and to avoid that, like I said, you can use blockchain where you can see exactly where it goes, who receives it, and like how it's spent. Um, so that I think would help. But as far as for lowering Medicare eligibility, that goes in hand with me with like Social Security. Um, like that money has to come from somewhere, and if we're not efficient, like it seems to me like we aren't right now, like that money's gonna come out of taxes, unless it comes out of corporations. But if it's Biden, Biden wants to tax corporations more. If it's Trump, he wants to tax corporations less. Each has its pros and cons, but I mean, I would say yes because my family's over 60, and I think Medicare would be a plus there. In my case, in your case, it might be different. You might be younger, your family might be under, you might not have parents, or your parents passed away unfortunately, um, so it might not affect you. So there's different things. Supports Medicaid expansion. District already have done under the ACA. Uh, I'm gonna skip this. I'm gonna start skipping a few of these because this is very long and it went way longer than I thought it was gonna be. Um, so let's kind of just go by topic. Supports right to try legislation which allows patients with life-threatening disease or condition to have access to experimental drugs or procedures. Here's a tough one. I'm gonna skip this. I'm gonna go into like the stuff that affects the economy and stuff like this. Um, just for the sake of it, I'm gonna say that it would be okay to give them access to it. If I suggest it, I would not suggest it, but I know desperate times call for desperate measures sometimes. So if they want to do it, they can do it. I don't suggest it because I wouldn't want anyone to be a guinea pig out of an emotional response or fear. Um, but they have the option. So let's kind of just breeze through these. Supports importing certain prescription drugs from Canada. Where are they sold at? Yeah, if they're sold for less, sell them for less. Supports allowing undocumented immigrants to get insurance through Medicaid or other public insurance programs. Um, I think this sucks because I'm Mexican. I think they should. I'm biased. I'm biased. Oh yes, I'm biased. I'm Mexican. I want Mexicans to succeed. But this to me goes in hand with like immigration reform, where I think um, any person that enters the country illegally, I hate sending them back. But there needs to be a process where the filter can be better, because this process of like you have to know your states, you have to know like history of the U.S. It's not that important to me. Like to me, I would like people that can produce better ideas, better technology, new ways of looking at things, solutions for current problems that we have in society, uh, just growth. How can you produce growth? Why should we allow you in? And then boom, cool. Oh, you don't know the answer? Come back when you have the answer. Okay, this is someone we want. I remember when people used to say, "This is the land of the best of the best," because you had people from all over wanting to come here and build something great. And then it's just I don't know who let it get out of hand, but it got out of hand. Um, Criminal justice supports defunding the police. No and no. Um, I'm just gonna go by the top. Trump is like a definite no. Biden believe wants like a reform. Um, he wants to. Let me see. His proposal advocates spending an additional 300 million dollars a year on commuting policing initiatives and conditioning existing funds on reforms. The vast majority of police are decent, honorable people, but there are bad apples, man, and we have to change the way in which we teach police. We have to release all information, he said at a fundraiser. So yeah, reform. So there needs to be some change in our criminal justice system. Um, Supports ending qualified immunity. Yeah, you would reform. Like if it's good the way it is, no, because then you can get away with anything. So I don't think that's right. There's more levels to all of these topics, but I'm just gonna go very briefly. If you want to discuss any of these with me later, I'm open to it. I'm always into like learning new things, new perspectives, and we'll see where it goes. Supports lowering mandatory minimum prison sentences. Um, Trump signed the bipartisan First Step Act, which aimed to lessen long-standing disparities in incarceration by reducing prison sentences. Biden supports any mandatory. I think they should support. I mean, they should remove mandatory minimum sentences. Um, Although during the 36 years in the career Senate, he said a history of pushing for legislation that included mandatory minimum sentence. Okay. Yeah, I would eliminate mandatory. Supports federal legalization of recreational marijuana. Uh, I don't smoke. I know people that do. I've never had any issues with them. They actually seem like some of the nicest people. I guess you don't have to support it, but I wouldn't. I would decriminalize it. Yeah, so I'm with Biden on this one. Especially for those people that were put. Okay, this is the funny thing. Oh my gosh. Here's another thing that doesn't make sense. So a few years ago, before weed was legal, people have gone to jail for selling it or smoking it or having it, and now those same people are in jail. But during the pandemic, when everything was closed, that was an essential business that was open. That was an essential business that was open, but people are still in jail for it from years back. Does that make sense to you? Because it does not make sense to me. A lot of our system is outdated and broken, and we need a lot of change. And I don't think these people are going to do it. So regardless whether you vote for Trump or for Biden, it doesn't really matter to me in the short term. I think this is just another stepping stone. COVID just allowed people to see things that are out there with our infrastructure, with our systems, our foundation, and these are presidents or these candidates are just there to fill in the spot for a temporary time. The most change I believe is going to come from corporations, businesses, people. I believe in history that the largest contribution to advancements were businesses. So start a business, come up with some great ideas, solve a problem. That's the biggest thing you can do. Solve a problem that's going on. Supports the death penalty. No, I don't like killing people. I don't like hurting people. I know I fight, but I'm so weird. I don't think I can go like pro and not try and hurt people. I don't know. It's just weird. You gotta like flip on a switch and just be like Mike Tyson. Um, I think people who deserve to die should probably be sentenced to prison. Um, like that solitude and that I think it will break someone more than you just pass away and leave life. There's nothing to reflect upon. You're gonna be gone, and that's it. But to each their own. That's I think that comes with religion. Um, Supports privatizing prisons. Uh, I'm gonna say no, just because they make so much money. Uh, so who knows how much they would charge for these private companies, corporations, to hold these prisoners, and then how that might even affect our law system. Supports eliminating cash bail. Trump does not want to eliminate cash bail, and even supports ending cashless bail, which allows judges to decide whether an accused person can leave bail free or must wait in jail for trial. I I think we shouldn't even have cash bail. I think like I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this one. I don't think. I think if you're not guilty or found not guilty, you should just be allowed to roam as long as you don't, I don't know, hurt anybody. I guess. I'm not sure how I feel about this one. I have to look more into it. Government and voting. Voting and government supports quickly filling Supreme Court vacancies following the just bitter blah blah blah. Republican leaders said they were pressing ahead to seize a monumental chance to solidify the court's rightward ideology shift by replacing Ginsburg. Um, Not escalate, Biden said, so I appeal these few Senate Republicans. Mm, I don't think we should do anything under emotion or any, and under any forms of pressure. You should just let things happen as they need to. Um, so I don't support a quickly filling of the Supreme Court vacancy. Supports adding more seats to the Supreme Court. I don't know much about the Supreme Court. I haven't followed much of how they function, so I'm just gonna let this one go. Supports vote by mail. I'm vote by blockchain, but I'll take a vote by mail. They should just put vote by blockchain. It's way more secure than this. I'm not sure if you guys seen my post. Um, was it USPS has patented a blockchain system where you can vote digitally um, through your phone, and you'll be mailed a QR code to confirm that it's you, kind of like um, the mail we got for if you're in California for voting for this election, something like that. But it's gonna have a code. You scan it so they know it's you, and then it gets sent up to the cloud. I like the idea, but I think it could still be better. One, I don't like the USPS being in control of that. I think we could decentralize that in an encrypted way where only we can see the chain, or the sorry, not the chain. We can see the code to make sure that it's legitimately functioning properly. No changes, and no one else can access it without proper clearance. And any changes or adjustments made will be put on the transaction record, and they cannot be altered at any cost. I think that's more secure in my point of view, but I'm progressive. Supports vote by mail. I'll say yes for now, just because I like ease. Um, Either way, I don't trust either. Which which states will offer vote by mail this December? Supports voter ID laws, which require voters to show identification at the polls. I believe yes, but you should show your ID at the poll. It just makes sense. I don't know why Biden would say no. I would have to look at the laws. That's weird. Supports restoring voting rights for people convicted of felonies who have completed their sentence. Um, yeah, I mean, you do your sentence and you should be able to vote. You're part of society now, you know. Whether you, whatever job you're able to get, you're still contributing. That's like paying taxes and you don't have any rights. Supports statehood of Washington, D.C. Um, this I'm not sure about. I'm skipping now one. Supports statehood for Puerto Rico. Oh my God. With the mayor of San Juan, as bad as she is and as incompetent as she is, Puerto Rico shouldn't be talking about statehood until they get more people that really know what they're doing. Trump said in 2018, I will work with representatives who support each other of status options in Puerto Rico on a fair and binding process to determine their own status. Biden said in September, I believe statehood would be the most effective means of ensuring that residents of Puerto Rico are treated equally with equal representation at the federal level, but the people of Puerto Rico must decide and the federal government must respect and act on the decisions. Yeah, I think Puerto Rico should decide as definitely their decision, especially if they're a part of us, but they're not a part of us. Like, we have a why, right? I mean, why is it? Because it's nicer? Like, I don't know. But, yeah, I think that definitely Puerto Rico should decide. Supports eliminating the Senate filibuster. I'm not going to talk about that. Supports congressional term limits. I'm not going to talk about that. Um, Actually, let's talk about the limits real quick. Congressional term limits. Actually, that's not what I thought it was. Let's skip that for now. Supports limiting the electoral college. Not neither of them wants. Like I said, like these are older people. They don't want change. I definitely would get rid of the electoral college. I'm more of a free person. I enjoy free markets. I don't enjoy how the Fed has a lot of control over, or as much control as they do over the markets, the stock markets. When a policy is produced, or I'm sorry, when the stimulus passed, um, a lot of those investors like went to the markets, and that's what made the stock go up. Like that was, I believe, it's like 15 or 19% inflated. So right now it's about like 15 or 19% more than it should be. Um, but people go along with it, and a lot of people don't know any better, so they're just like, "Oh, the market's going up, let me invest." But that's how you get screwed too. Like you have to plan ahead. They plan ahead, like, "Oh, it's gonna crash, and we're gonna make people buy," and then they you buy, and then they sell, and you either sell or you hold on to your stock. Um, so I really don't like how much government we have in the stock market right now, or in general. They also have other stuff that they implement in there. Um, NATO, I am not familiar with this. We're gonna skip this. Supports withdrawing troops from Afghanistan and peace talks between the Afghan government and the Taliban. They both said yes. Supports the Israel United Arabs. Yes. Supports moving the U.S. Embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Mm, I'm not that familiar with foreign relations, how we are, how everything is over there with the U.S. and their country. So I would, I would, yeah, I would check. It's complicated, so maybe he doesn't know it. But I don't know. I don't know. Supports Iran nuclear deal. Trump pulled the United States out of the Obama era deal, which he criticized as weak, poorly negotiated, and insane. Biden, as Trump's withdrawal prompted Iran to restart its nuclear program and become more provocative, bringing the region to the cusp of another disastrous war. um, yeah, I guess if Iran returns to compliance, I would do Biden. Weak, I'm not sure about weak. Acknowledges the Russian interfered acknowledges that Russia interfered in the 2016 presidential campaign. I don't know. If you want this to go away, you have to have a decentralized system where it's made public and we can all see it and make sure that it functions properly. Like even when you vote right now, I honestly don't know if my vote is counted properly by a machine, if there's any tampering in between, if I don't know any of that. I just have to trust. The reason why I vote is because just like I believe that people can offset what I actually put, there's people that can make sure that these votes are done properly. So I guess you could call it like political hackers. I don't know if you guys know what that is. It's hackers who are into like the government, who hack the government and government stuff. Um, so I would say like do the best you can, and maybe someone is out there looking out for you, you know. But if you never look out for yourself, no one else is gonna look out for you either. So that's why I vote. Supports Indian assistance. We're not going to talk about any foreign policy. Supports current restrictions on U.S.-Cuba relations. I don't know. From what I hear, is Cuba isn't that bad. I might go visit and check it out to see how it actually is. And I haven't read much about it, so I don't know. Supports the creation of Space Force. Space Force. That sounds like it should be like on Fox Saturday morning cartoons or something, right? Space Force. Anyway, sorry, little kid came out of me. Um, I don't know. I don't know about Space Force. I have to look into it. Supports increasing the Defense Department budget from current levels. No, I'm gonna say no. I think we're already big enough as it is, and I believe we supply, which we probably shouldn't, a lot of weapons to other countries, which I believe we shouldn't. But I know, all right, I'm assuming some of this helps our economy. I don't know how much. Like I said, I'm not a fan of hurting people. I'm not a fan of war, so I'm gonna say no. But I also do understand that we're so big and we're so much of a bully as a country. Like if you let go, someone might just bomb you hard. So fortunately, that's the reputation we built. Climate and the environment. Believes climate change is real and recent warning is largely driven by human activity. From my information, I believe we affect our environment. Um, Regardless of whether it's yes or no, it's like, what are you doing to mitigate it? Whether it's I affect the environment a shitload or I affect it a little bit, anything you can do to contribute goes a long way. Like I said, if you're not willing to help yourself, no one else is gonna help you as well. So that's a big thing. So anything you can do, recycle, separate cans or trash, or just don't throw anything on the floor. That's helped already. So supports an active role for the federal government reducing greenhouse gas emissions. I personally would support it. I do try and be as green as I can. Whether it's renewable energy, whether even like, well, right now I'm not eating red meat, but if that would help, and we just transition to like Impossible meat or something similar, something better, I don't mind. I don't mind. Supports rejoining the Paris Agreement. I'm so and so about this. Like, I believe it is good, but like I said, if we can just produce um, better, better, better numbers, better data, as far as being efficient, as far as being more green, more eco-friendly. It doesn't matter whether we're in an agreement or not. Like, just do your part. Like if you you should just make like a countries bet against each other. Like, hey, if you don't meet this standards and you gotta pay this amount, just do it like that. Like, yeah, if you pay us for not keeping your end of the bargain or whatever, which in turn can lead to other things like, oh yeah, well we're gonna make so much money, which like during the housing market crash, banks still came up positive, and they even gave their for Chase, they gave I believe their CEO um, a bonus after the crash, after they paid because they still had so much money, they gave them an extra bonus. Um, so as long as what they need to pay is more than what they would have made, then I think you're fine. But I think as long as you do your part to help the environment, to help people, to help animals, and I think that's the best thing we can do. We only have one Earth, We don't, even though we have different colors, we're all one species. So I just don't understand a lot of things that people say, people do, and hopefully that changes over time. um, Supports banning fracking. From my understanding, fracking is bad. Um, and I believe we can transition. If it comes to like jobs, like it's gonna hurt so many jobs, so like just transition them. And if it's gonna cost money, yeah, it's gonna cost money. Um, well, if it's the government training them, but as a society, we can just try start steering away from that stuff. And looking into something more sustainable, whether it's like water powered, wind powered, solar powered, whatever it is. Um, so I don't support fracking. Supports fossil fuel extraction in public water and on public land, such as the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. Trump opened much public land, including the refuge, to oil and gas extraction. He proposed a vast expansion of drilling in the U.S. continental waters, but recently banned drilling off the coast of Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina. Biden wants to end new oil, gas, and coal permitting in public water and on public land, including in the refuge. I'm good with that. Biden supports banning fossil fuel exports. Um, I guess this has to do with jobs as well. Energy export, petroleum products, crude oil, natural gas, and coal. So petroleum is our highest exports. So most of the world looks like it's consuming oil still, obviously. So we need to transition that as a whole humanity. Um, I don't think you should ban it. I think you should ease off it in one way or another. Maybe make it more pricey, and in turn, it might cause them to try and sell us more or pricier products. So we just have to be ready for those changes. Immigration supports zero tolerance policy that led to family separations at the border. I'm not big with the separation. I hate that. So support zero tolerance policy. I just that's hard. Uh, Immigration reform is a necessary thing we need. And why I say this is because there's so many problems going on all over the world. I have a friend from Venezuela, and like the poverty there is just so bad. Like over here, we have people lining up for PlayStations. Over there, there's people lining up for food. Um, and it is tough, you know. We're fortunate enough not to feel some of those effects um, because they have to deal with the dollar that they're trading against, that their own currency is trading against. So you have people from Turkey, you have people from um, where is it? Some South Africa or Africa. You have people from like South America, and since the dollar is like the reserve currency, whenever that goes, or it looks like it's going to shit, or it's going up, or any change in the U.S. currency triggers panic everywhere, everywhere. Um, Especially on those in those places where there's hyperinflation, when their money's not worth much. Well, yeah, I think I'm a no on this. Supports building additional wall on the U.S. Mexico. You don't need a wall. People are gonna climb it, dig under. They're gonna do something regardless. Plus, that's an extra expense. Like I said, just reform immigration somehow. Supports a moratorium on deportations. Um, Trump is deporting fewer people than the Obama administration, but he has touted his record on deporting undocumented immigrants and gang members. Biden has called it the high number of deportations during the Obama years a big mistake and said he would commit to 100-day moratorium at the start of his admission. He will direct enforcement towards threats to public safety and national security. I don't know about this one. Skip. Supports banning sanctuary cities. This is a long ass video. If you guys are still watching this, I give you props. Because this is a long ass video. Supports banning sanctuary cities. Trump pledged to end sanctuary cities to restore our neighborhoods and protect our families in second term agenda. Biden wants to aggressively limit local law enforcement cooperation with federal immigration authorities. He previously opposed sanctuary cities. I think every time it comes to immigration, it's so tough to decide. So tough. I think I would probably support Trump on this one. Supports the United States accepting fewer than 50,000 refugees per year. See, this is tough also. Um, I try and help out as many people as I can, and I do donate and stuff to different organizations. But I also understand that this impacts our economy a bit. But a lot of these refugees, they're way underpaid. A lot of these people are living in homes or rooms with like a bunch of other people. Um, and they're just looking for a better life for themselves or the family. They send money back to the family, and they help general general businesses like get ahead. There's some businesses that I know that use immigrants, uh, and just that low cost just helps them continue. But I mean, right now with the pandemic going on, I don't even know what's going on. Um, man, it's tough. It's very, very tough when it comes to immigration. I think there's got to be a better way. Supports increasing the number of high skilled immigrants. Um, yeah, after reform. Yes, not during the pandemic. Trump paused visas for high skilled workers through 2020. I don't agree with this. Citing job losses because of the pandemic in 2019, the administration preference was what preference was to allow high skilled immigrants. Biden wants to reform the temporary visa system and then will support expanding the number of high skilled visas and limiting the limits on employment basis visas by country. I think we have a lot of like highly technological workers that are immigrants. A lot of them come through I believe that's H-1B1 visa, um, and they're super super smart. Let me tell you, I think some of them work probably like at Facebook, Google, or like those big tech companies. Um, and if you do let them go or you don't extend it, and they go back, they're gonna work and they're gonna take some of that knowledge back to their country to build over there. So what you're doing is I would say, taking some of our GDP and giving it to others. So I'm not good with that. Um, I don't believe you should have paused the visas for high skilled workers, but that's that's the president's job, or that's the president's decision. Abortion supports nominee anti-abortion justice to Supreme Court. I think people should do what they want with their bodies. Sorry, whether you take it in a good way or a bad way. Um, I think they should just be able to do what they like. Supports additional abortion restrictions. I'm not sure what additional restrictions that would be, so we'll pass this one. Supports public funding for abortions. I don't know if it should be funded publicly. Like, I would take a see. I wish this was another system that was implemented on a blockchain or on a wide scale level, where women all over the world can select if they would want uh, for abortions to be um, publicly funded or not, or what they think about that. And then from there, I would say yes or no. If I had to choose, like, I'm not gonna say I don't care, but I don't have enough knowledge um, to make that a factor in my decision making. Um, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. Let me just say that I wouldn't be opposed to it. Should there be restrictions on late term abortions? They say yes, yes. I don't know. That's another tough one. This life and death stuff is immigration is really tough to decide on. Um, See, in one, like they both said yes, there should be restrictions, but there's also stem cell research, and I'm sure people are gonna want to clone, um, or at least at a minimum, like a body part that you're missing, and then have it reattached, um, and that comes with like stem cells and like growing it, and it's crazy. Technology is crazy, you guys. If you guys You guys knew some of the stuff I know. You guys, oh my gosh, it's crazy. Education supports making public college tuition free. Yes, at least for some, I would say no. This guy had privatized his own school, and it went to shit, and it closed down. So no, I wouldn't. I think colleges should be free. I know they've done it in a couple other countries, um, and I think it should be free personally. Biden supports making public colleges tuition free for families making less than 125,000 a year. That's I think that's fair. And there should be a bracket. If Biden does win, I hope there's a bracket where the more you make, the less help you get. So like at 20, up to 25,000, it's free. If it's and it starts dwindling as the money goes up, you know. And then I just hope these schools don't get crazy and just want to charge like X amount. That's another like issue. Supports universal pre-kindergarten. Yeah, I think that's cool. Yeah, definitely, definitely. Um, whether it's at home or whether it's, I don't think it should be necessary, but I think you should have the option to, because the sooner your child gets in the habit of like learning things and wondering what this does and that does and being creative, I think that just builds a better foundation. Supports federal funding to send students to private schools. I would support it. I'm with Trump on this one. I would support it. Supports federal funding to send students to private schools. I would support it. The reason I say that is because if there's like exceptional students, exceptional, um, and they compete for real world problems, none of the standardized BS, then yeah, I would definitely, I wouldn't mind contributing to that. You know, it's just to bettering the country. And you're like, oh, it's just one guy, one person. Yeah, so was Elon Musk, so was Jeff Bezos, so was, etc. Albert Einstein, even though he was an American. Well, Elon Musk is not even American, so I mean, you have all these opportunities um, for a lot of people, regardless of like race or gender, and a lot of them don't get a chance to participate in those opportunities because of financial restrictions or maybe environment restrictions, whatever it is. Supports banning charter schools. No, I don't think they should be banned. I think that's fine. Only for-profit charter schools. I just think they shouldn't be banned in general. If I think parents should do the research on whether a school is worth being paid for or not. Um, I know we have a Department of Education, and let me tell you, it's shit. That is actually one of the huge reasons I do not want to vote for Trump. Um, so I would say no on this matter, but overall for the Department of Education, I gotta go with Biden. So hopefully that gets changed. Supports cross-examination of accusers of sexual assault at colleges and universities. Um, Trump's Education Department announced new rules in May on campus sexual assault, offering more rights to the accused. Biden strongly discouraged schools from allowing cross-examination during the hearing and campaigns. This is another issue. We have too many liars. We have too many liars all over in our political system and sexual assault and so much stuff. I believe at a younger age we should find a way to instill how we should behave as adults in society. So in pre-kinder, kinder, start developing their skills of how they should develop in society with honesty, with integrity, with stuff like that. Appreciation. And I know it's possible because other countries have done it. Um, these, see, when they ask questions like these, I don't think they think beyond the box. Everyone just wants to gun control. I am neither for nor banning gun control. Anything with gun control. I do not like firearms, but I also am not opposed to other people owning firearms. Um, as far as confiscating, support the federal assault weapons ban. Um, I think there's like military weapons that were allowed, right? Or like automatic, like stuff like that shouldn't be allowed. So yeah, I agree with that. Sports widespread mandatory, so they both said no. Supports requirement for gun owners to register their firearm. Only assault weapons. Yeah, I think that should be fine. Supports requiring background. I would honestly, I'm with. I think this one's a little safer, so I'm just gonna go with Biden. Supports requiring background checks on every gun purchase. Definitely yes. Definitely yes. It should be a mental health assessment. I don't know if you guys ever checked into other countries, but some other the countries that don't have guns have such a rigorous licensing process. Most people don't even want to get a gun. Um, so maybe we should do something like that. A lot of the stuff that we produce is like quick police officers, quick like gun licensing, quick everything. Well, we're gonna just push it out there, and I don't think that's cool because I think everything needs its time. If you don't give everything its time, whether it's at a quick pace, everyone is different. But from what I've seen, most of the people don't function that way, and everything needs its time. And there should be more background checks and planning involved, especially with guns and all the gun violence that we've had recently. Supports banning rapid fire attachments. Yes, both said yes. LGBTQ rights. I haven't looked into the rights, but let me tell you something about this. And this might be something that they feel similar. If you ever look on either a job application or um, just any type of form where you have to like check off like certain things like male, female, um, are you your relation status and stuff like that. It is nice to have those extra boxes. Like for me, my wife passed away, so I really appreciate that they put the widow box because when it's not there, you do feel a difference. You do feel that they're not being acknowledged, and that's something that I believe in my they might feel as well. Um, so I can understand that. Like it's really nice when they do something like that. Maybe I'm just a nice person. But I believe when you um I guess see people, they might feel like they're not being seen. It's just a different feeling you get, and you feel you're part of the community, or you maybe if it was a job application, you'd feel more comfortable with the job. If it's a country, you might feel more comfortable in that country. If it's the state, or whatever, you know. So I don't have much information on these. Supports ban on transgender people in the military. I would say no. The reason I say no is because if you're good, whether it's being in the military as a chef, whatever it is, you're good. I'm not gonna discriminate. Um, I'm not gonna discriminate based on um, your gender or transgender or whatever, your sexual preference or race. If you're good, you're good at what you do. Because all we are as people, all we do is we provide a service. We provide for our country, whether it's entertainment, whether it's information, whether it's whatever it is. All we are service providers, or we build stuff. We build products um, to help people, whether it's Siri for turning something on or off, or to make our lives better in one way or another. Um, Support same-sex marriage. That's fine. I have no problem with that. And that is it. But overall, my main reasons why I'm voting for Biden is one of them. He for school loans, he plans to remove, I believe, like 10K initially, and then 50K like progressing through that. And I believe Elizabeth Warren is backing him on that, from my understanding. And she is badass. I really love her. I wish she would have. been one of the presidential candidates along with Bernie Sanders, but unfortunately it didn't work out, and we get what we get. Um, so that's like I said, there's certain things for me that would help out. That's one of them. So that 10K, let's say it does help. I can instead of paying the government or interest or bank or whatever I pay, I can put it as an investment, or I can move that money somewhere else. Um, Now, there's certain things you can do with money, like Apple has, as what well, Apple's one of the richest companies in the world, yet they still have debt. They still owe people because they owe, or because of what they owe is so little charging interest. They just keep the debt, and then they leverage that to buy other stuff that'll make them more money in revenue compared to the debt, and they keep growing. I kind of see it the same way. So, yes, for those people that paid off your student loans, that's great. You worked your ass off, and I've paid down a huge portion of it. I'm actually almost done, I guess. But if I were to pay it off, I wouldn't have money to invest and move around. And the investments I generally make bring me more returns than I would pay on interest for the student loan. So, that's the way I function. And then if Biden passes, then I don't have to worry about that because it'll get paid for the most part. And then I believe they want to like give up to like 50K credit or something. So we'll see. And like I said, like Department of Education is currently run um, by like Trump supporters. And not that I want to ding them or anything for being Trump supporters. It's just that the way they function, to me, is not to my benefit. Um, and like I said, everyone might be on different sides, and that's okay. So just do whatever you think is best for you and your family. Um, the tax breaks, like, yeah, cool, charge corporations more. Should like make it easier for us, quote unquote. I'm not sure if that's gonna happen, but I would think that it would be okay at least in the short term, especially since I think we do need some form of relief. Otherwise, uh, we're going to get taxed from all these COVID expenses that the states have had to make. But do your own research, see what works out for you, what you like. I know I was kind of brief. It's a long ass talk, but I still felt it was kind of brief. I didn't want to go into too much detail per thing because it would have taken forever. But if you have any like specific questions, or if you want to know anything, just let me know and I'll see if I have any knowledge on that. We can go over it and maybe it'll help out your decision. So, in short, do what you think is best for you and your family. Before you do that, how do you do that? Do your research. That's it. And regardless of who you choose, be aware that the other person might win as well. So plan ahead. That way, whichever way um, the votes go, you'll be okay. So this has been my Sunday. Oh my gosh, 2 hour, almost 2 hour talk. I did not want to do it this long, but hopefully you guys got some information, maybe some ideas, and I look forward to seeing who wins. Enjoy your Sunday.